Magic items are the most exciting reward your D&D players can get. I mean, after defeating the big baddie, what do they grab first? The gold coins? Or the glowing, crackling sword he was using? So, if the loot at the end of a quest is disappointing, it will sour the whole experience. That's why I want to show you 5 magic items I've made with the help of some award-winning creators.
Bonjour!
Not only will your players love them, but they will also raise the stakes of your campaign and improve the roleplay at your table. Let's dig in. Going into this project, we wanted to make 50 magic items, and I gave myself a challenge. Can I make a few that will encourage players to roleplay? Obviously, we can't force people into it, and if it's not their playstyle, that's okay. But if we had items which gave some prompts, or even rewarded a player for engaging in it, I'm willing to bet we'd see more roleplay at our tables. So, 3 items in this video are like that, and we'll start with the Shrivener's Sponge. Here I went with the idea that roleplay is what activates the item. And I must thank the excellent Peter from Elsewhere for suggesting the name. It comes from to shriven, which means to absolve someone of their sins. The sponge is made to encourage a player to reflect on their character's actions and share it with the table. The full text is on the screen, but briefly put, if a character washes themselves while reflecting on either a mistake they've made or on an ideal they value, they gain the ability to use Lay on Hands like a level 1 paladin. Paladins get extra use instead. And while the item just needs one player to share something, it has the potential to create a profound moment for the whole party. The others could feel invited by the first player sharing their thoughts, and we can have a quiet evening around the campfire, where all the PCs engage in reflection and a discussion. The next item doesn't need roleplay to activate it, but it instead leads to roleplay. It's called an Instigator's Biography, and it details the life of a famous revolutionary. If you read it, you gain the ability to sense the location of 3 nearby strangers most likely to help your cause. As you can imagine, this would be very handy in an occupied territory or maybe when infiltrating the enemy capital. Now, most likely to help doesn't mean they get charmed into helping you. It doesn't even mean they will like you. And that's where gameplay and roleplay come in. How do you approach these strangers? How do you plead your case and ask for help? How do you even find out whether they're actually likely to help you or merely, out of all the people in this town, happen to hate you the least? Because you might happen to be surrounded by nothing but enemies. And even if there are allies available, such as members of the same spy network, they might not be easy to get to. They could be incarcerated, awaiting the gallows. And just imagine the player's reactions if the item points them to the enemy king. What do they do with that info? These 50 items I mentioned will all be on YouTube for free on my and other creators' channels. I'll put links under the video. I'll also link to where you can get them as a PDF or an actual printed deck of cards that are going to look awesome when you hand them out. The wonderful Nairobi drew the art, and the box they come in is a mimic. There's also 10 extra items in it because we kind of failed to stop at the planned 50. Okay, third item. This one can turn the whole campaign on its head if the PCs aren't careful with it. Originally called Mask of the Screaming Devil, but that didn't fit on a card, this item is ostensibly simple. When you wear it, you can scream like a banshee. That's it. If you're unfamiliar, a banshee is a type of ghost whose wail can kill those who hear it. So the mask can be a useful weapon, but there's 2 problems. For one, it's cursed. And 2, removing the curse makes you a danger to yourself and everyone around you. You see, after the 3rd use, the mask sinks under your skin and merges with your skull. You discover you can no longer communicate in anything other than shrieks. And no, sign language won't let you bypass the curse, and neither will writing or telepathy. It's going to be especially problematic for spellcasters, who will find it difficult to cast spells that require them to speak. The one upside is that you can talk to banshees, and for what it's worth, they will treat you as one of their own. Maybe the players get creative. Maybe they knowingly accept the curse. Now, the real nastiness comes when you remove it. This part makes me giddy with glee. Remember, Game Masters, your fun is important too. It's okay to laugh at your player's misery from time to time. Anyway, removing the curse makes the mask painfully separate from your skull. It takes a few rounds to complete, during which you can't do anything but keep using the Banshee's wail. And you discover that you are no longer immune to it. If the PCs have access to Remove Curse, it's just them who are going to be in danger. But if they need an NPC to do it, and the curse goes off in a crowded temple, the story is about to get a whole lot more interesting. I would introduce the mask by showing how it's used by a big bad evil guy, or BBEG as we call them. The PCs would be fighting the BBEG when...
Hey Nick, what's happening?
Oh, hey, Daddy. Congrats on 100,000 subs. I was just doing the thing about my
we have a problem here.
What happened?
You didn't pronounce the word babeeg correctly? Yeah.
What? No, it's an acronym. I'm sure it...
Yeah, if you could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on, that'd be great.
Okay. As I was saying, the PCs are fighting the babeeg, who pulls out the mask and only uses the wail once or gives it to an underling to use. This shows the PCs what the item does, but also that the babeeg didn't want to wear it the entire time. Alright, enough negativity. The Book of Dreams is next, and everyone gets advantage! But you have to talk about your dreams first. The book lets you describe a dream or a vision based on a prompt the book gives you. You then share the dream with your party, hopefully creating a nice roleplay moment. And then, while adventuring, you can call out, "This is what the dream was about!" when you encounter something that reminds you of the dream. The party then gets to roll with advantage because you'd warned them what was coming. For example, the random table can give me the prompts emotion you've been feeling and a location important to you. So I think about it and decide my character has been afraid lately. The location can be a waterfall back home where I used to play. I could then describe a dream where this serene waterfall slowly turns red and say my character wakes up in cold sweat. I share this with my party and say later in the day we get ambushed during heavy rain. If the GM agrees this is similar enough and I call it out, the whole party rolls their next action with advantage. Finally, our legendary item, a single scale from an armor that once belonged to a mighty celestial. My friend Evelina asked me to describe my thought process when I was creating this item, so I'll go into that a little bit. Before I knew what the item would be, I knew the fantasy I wanted to capture. A paladin, raising their hand to the sky, calling the divine light, and then it bursting out of them in a brilliant aura that blinds the enemies and heals the allies. But it also had to capture heroism and self-sacrifice. The paladin had to be vulnerable while doing this. So I decided my item would be a pendant that a paladin or a cleric would clutch to use it. An angel feather was the first idea for the pendant, but first ideas tend to be clichés. I eventually decided a piece of angelic armor felt right. Then it took a lot of brainstorming and back and forth with the rest of the team to actually decide what the power is. I wanted the user to have to stay still while using it, and the longer they did it, the stronger the power, but greater the risk. We landed on a growing aura that hurts both the user and their enemies, but heals their allies. You can see the exact numbers on the screen. And remember, there's a link below to a deck of cards with all 60 of these items. So, if you're relying on your paladin and the celestial pendant to stop the horde of baddies, you better be able to protect the paladin for a few rounds as they go nova. And finally, as a thematic bonus, but mostly because I thought it was funny, if the paladin drops to 0 hit points within 24 hours of using the pendant, their body disappears and they revive somewhere in Mount Celestia in 1d100 years. I hope you enjoyed these and check out the rest, and I'll see you next time with more magic.